The sweet potato casserole sat untouched between us, its marshmallow top going cold. I watched my daughter Maya's fingers curl around her napkin, knuckles white against the fabric. She was 13, at that terrible age where every word landed like a stone, where she was just beginning to understand the hierarchies adults pretended didn't exist. We'd arrived at my parents' house 3 hours earlier, Maya carrying the green bean casserole she'd insisted on making herself. She'd watched YouTube tutorials, measured everything twice, worried that it wouldn't be good enough for Jennifer's standards. I'd assured her it would be perfect. I'd been wrong to focus on the casserole. My sister Jennifer had been talking for 20 minutes straight about her son's acceptance to a prestigious prep school. Briarwood Academy, she kept calling it as if the name itself conferred status. The application fee alone cost more than Maya's entire school wardrobe. The yearly tuition was more than I made in 6 months. Of course, we're investing in his future, Jennifer said, refilling her wine glass for the 3rd time. Not all children have the capacity for excellence. Some kids are just meant for minimum wage jobs. The table went quiet. My mother's fork paused halfway to her mouth. My father shifted in his chair, and I could feel his warning glance even without looking up. Maya's eyes fixed on her plate. She'd been working weekends at the local library, shelving books for $8 an hour. She loved that job, loved the smell of old pages and the quiet dignity of organizing knowledge. Last week she'd come home beaming because the head librarian had praised her indexing system. She'd reorganized the entire young adult section by both genre and theme, creating cross-references that made it easier for kids to find books they'd actually want to read. Mrs. Patterson had called it innovative. Maya had called me at work just to tell me about it, her voice breathless with pride. I'd stuck that memory in my pocket for hard days. For moments like this when I needed to remember what mattered. Jennifer, my mother started, her voice carefully neutral. But Jennifer wasn't finished. She leaned back in her chair, gesturing with her wine glass in a way that suggested she'd had too much and cared too little. I'm just being realistic. Look at the statistics. Kids who don't get into the right schools, who don't have the right opportunities, they end up serving fries or stocking shelves. It's not cruel, it's just facts. My brother-in-law Derek nodded along, cutting his turkey with deliberate precision. He'd made his money in real estate during the boom and never let anyone forget it. Their house had 7 bedrooms for 3 people. Some families prioritize education, Jennifer continued, swirling her wine. Others prioritize, well, other things. Comfort. Easy choices. Not pushing their children toward excellence. The implication hung in the air like smoke. My mother's hand tightened around her fork. My father's jaw clenched in that way that meant he was choosing silence over conflict, the way he always did. I set down my fork. The sound it made against the china was sharper than I intended. The whole table felt it, that small metallic clink that meant something was about to break. Like living off alimony? I asked. The words came out quiet, almost conversational. But they landed like a slap. Jennifer's face went rigid. Derek's knife stopped mid-cut. My mother closed her eyes briefly, the way she did when she knew something irreversible had just happened. Excuse me. Jennifer's voice climbed an octave. While you're talking about who deserves what kind of work, I said, keeping my tone light and reasonable. I'm just wondering about your qualifications for judging, given that you haven't actually worked in 7 years. Not since you married Derek and decided that being a stay-at-home mother to 1 child required a full-time housekeeper and a nanny. The words came out calmer than I felt. I'd practiced this conversation in my head 100 times, usually at 3 in the morning when sleep wouldn't come and old resentments surfaced like bodies in a lake. I raise a child, she snapped. So do I. While working 50 hours a week. My father cleared his throat. Not here. Not today. I looked at him then, really looked at him. At the same man who'd told me to be quiet when Jennifer criticized my divorce. To keep peace when she made comments about Maya's thrift store clothes. To smile and nod when she explained why her son deserved his grandmother's antique desk instead of my daughter. Actually, Dad here is perfect. Jennifer stood up so fast her chair scraped backward. How dare you? Derek works extremely hard to provide for us. And I work extremely hard to provide for Maya and myself, I said. But somehow when you live off your husband's money, it's being provided for. When I work for my own money, my daughter is destined for minimum wage. That's not what I said, Jennifer protested, but her face had gone blotchy. You said some kids only deserve minimum wage jobs. Maya works minimum wage. You were looking right at her when you said it. Maya hadn't moved, but I could see the tension in her shoulders beginning to ease slightly. She needed to hear this. Needed to know that someone would stand up when it mattered. My mother set down her napkin with careful precision. Perhaps we should all take a moment. No, I said. I've taken enough moments. I've bitten my tongue through 3 years of comments about Maya's clothes, her school, our apartment. I've smiled through the implications that my divorce made me a failure. I've watched my daughter shrink herself smaller and smaller at these dinners because she's learned that her existence is somehow less valuable than her cousins. You're being dramatic, Jennifer said, but she couldn't quite meet my eyes. Am I? Last Christmas, you told her that state universities were for people who couldn't get in anywhere better. She cried for 2 hours that night because she'd been excited about the state school's marine biology program. They have one of the best in the country, but that didn't matter to you. What mattered was the prestige, the name recognition, the ability to drop it at dinner parties. I could see Maya's posture changing, straightening. She was listening to every word, filing it away. I never, Jennifer started. You did. I have the date in my journal because I had to spend that evening convincing my daughter that her dreams weren't worthless. Derek finally spoke up. Jennifer's just trying to be realistic about the world. It's competitive out there. Being realistic doesn't require being cruel, I said. And it's interesting that the people most insistent on being realistic are usually the ones who've never had to live in the real world they're describing. You've never had to decide between paying for heat or groceries. Never had to explain to your kid why she can't go on the school trip everyone else is going on. Never had to stretch a can of soup into 2 meals. My voice was still steady, still calm, but I could feel the tremor underneath, years of swallowed words trying to surface all at once. What's that supposed to mean? Derek's face was reddening now. It means you inherited your first 3 properties from your father. It means Jennifer's never had to choose between fixing the car and buying groceries. It means your son's opportunities come from wealth, not some inherent superiority. His test prep tutors cost more per hour than Maya makes in a day. His college consultant charges what I pay in rent. His opportunities are bought and paid for, and there's nothing wrong with that, but don't dress it up as merit. Derek's face had gone from red to purple. You're just jealous. Maybe, I admitted. Maybe I am jealous that my daughter has to work twice as hard for half the recognition. But that doesn't make what I'm saying untrue. You leveraged what you had. There's a difference. And that's fine, truly it is. Use your advantages. But don't pretend it's the same as starting from nothing. Don't pretend your son's success exists in a vacuum, disconnected from the money that built the foundation he's standing on. My father stood up. That's enough. Both of you. It's not enough, Dad. It's never been enough. Because every time I've stopped, every time I've kept quiet for the sake of family peace, Maya has learned that she should accept being treated as less than. I turned to my sister. You want to talk about what kids deserve? Maya volunteers at the animal shelter every Sunday. She tutors younger kids in math for free. She saved half her library earnings to buy Christmas presents for the family. What exactly has she done to deserve your contempt? Jennifer's mouth opened and closed. I never meant. You did mean it. You mean it every time you talk about those people who work service jobs. Every time you wrinkle your nose at chain restaurants. Every time you make it clear that you think manual labor is beneath you. I don't think I'm better than. Your whole life is built on thinking you're better than, I interrupted. Your house, your car, your son's school. You've constructed an entire identity around being superior to people who have less money. And maybe that would be just sad if you kept it to yourself. But you don't. You spread it around like poison. My mother was crying quietly now. My father looked older than he had an hour ago. Maya finally spoke, her voice small but steady. I like my job. Everyone turned to look at her. I like shelving books, she continued, sitting up straighter. I like helping people find what they need. Mrs. Patterson says I have a gift for organization. She says I might want to consider library science as a career. Maya, honey, Jennifer started, her tone shifting to something that might have been conciliatory. I'm not finished, Maya said, and I felt pride surge through my chest. You think minimum wage means minimum worth. But the librarians say that good library workers are essential. That knowledge doesn't organize itself. That helping people access information is important work. She looked at Jennifer directly for the first time. You've never asked me about my job. You've never asked what I do there or why I like it. You just decided it wasn't good enough because it doesn't pay much and doesn't sound impressive at parties. The silence that followed was thick enough to choke on. Jennifer sank back into her chair. I didn't realize. I wasn't trying to. You weren't trying to hurt her, I said. You just didn't think about her at all. You were so busy making yourself feel superior that you didn't notice you were crushing a kid who just wanted her aunt to be proud of her. My mother wiped her eyes. Jennifer, I think you need to apologize. I'm sorry, Jennifer said quickly, automatically. Not to me, my mother said. To Maya. Jennifer looked at my daughter and for the first time, I saw something like shame on my sister's face. Maya, I'm sorry. I was being awful. Your mom's right. I haven't asked about your job or your life and I should have. Maya nodded slightly but didn't say anything. I think, my father said heavily, that this Thanksgiving is over. Good, I said standing up. Maya, get your coat. As we walked to the door, my mother caught my arm. You didn't have to be so harsh. Yes, I did. For 3 years I've been gentle. And for 3 years, Maya's been learning that she doesn't matter as much as keeping peace. Family is important, my mother said. So is my daughter. And between the two she wins. Every single time. In the car Maya was quiet for a long time. Then she said, Thanks, Mom. You never have to thank me for defending you. I know. But still. We stopped at a diner on the way home, the kind with cracked vinyl booths and coffee that had been sitting too long. Our waitress was probably in her 60s with tired eyes and efficient hands. Maya watched her work, refilling cups and clearing tables with practiced grace. She's good at her job, Maya said quietly. Yes, she is. Aunt Jennifer would probably say she should have done better with her life. Aunt Jennifer doesn't know her story. Doesn't know if she's working 2 jobs to support grandkids, or if she loves the routine, or if she owns the diner and just likes staying busy. All your aunt sees is the uniform and the minimum wage assumption. Maya nodded slowly. I don't want to be like that. You're not. You're not even a little bit like that. We ordered pie because after the day we'd had, we deserved something sweet. The waitress brought it with a smile that reached her eyes, and Maya thanked her with genuine warmth. My phone buzzed with texts from my mother, my father, even Derek. I ignored them all. The only person who mattered was sitting across from me, eating pumpkin pie and slowly unfurling back into herself. Tomorrow we'd deal with the family fallout. Tonight we were just fine on our own. Mom. Maya said as we drove home. Yeah, baby. I still want to work at the library. Good. You should do work you love, whatever that is. She smiled, and it was the first real smile I'd seen from her all day. Sometimes burning bridges is the only way to protect what matters most. My sister could keep her superiority and her judgments. I'd keep my daughter's dignity intact, and that was worth any amount of family drama. The text from Jennifer came at midnight. We need to talk. I deleted it and went to sleep. Some conversations aren't worth having. Some people aren't worth the effort of explaining basic human decency. And some Thanksgivings the real blessing is knowing when to walk away. Maya was already asleep, her library badge still pinned to her jacket. $8 an hour and she wore it like a medal. She'd earned it.